Good afternoon. We'll get started in just a minute. Okay, well, it's 1 minute past the hour, so we'll go ahead and get started. I want to welcome you to the Infinity Network Solutions 2018 Business Roadmap webinar series. Today's topic is, you have a company culture already. Is it intentional or accidental? My name is Rob Betzel. I'm the CEO of Infinity Network Solutions, and I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us today or viewing this as a recording. We've been doing a number of different topics, both business and technically oriented this year, and this point in the series, we'd like to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart, which is company culture. So for the past 18 years as the leader here at Infinity Network Solutions, I believe that at the end of the day, company trumps everything else when it comes to how you operate a successful organization. So in setting up our company, one of the things people have to realize is that you have a company culture. The question is whether you have it intentionally or accidentally. Culture is defined by the belief or behaviors that determine how a company's employees and management interact and handle business transactions. And so what we're saying is basically it's those things that each person brings to the table when they join a team, their history, their experiences, those things that they believe in and those things that they do determine how our employees and management are going to interact and how they're going to handle things. And so in a lot of cases, it's implied, but not expressly defined. And so it's the organic, potentially, development of those set of traits that people that are hired by the company exhibit. And so when we're talking about company culture, you see a lot of organizations that haven't spent the time to define that, but they have one. And in a lot of cases, it's not one that they actually want to have. And so today we're going to talk about some things that you can do to help your organization to move from a accidental company culture to an intentional. And so whether you're doing this for a whole organization or a subset of a team, I think you can apply these basic principles that we found over the years that you can use, again, whether it's company-wide or just in a smaller group. And so what makes up culture at its core? So again, we're talking about shared histories and stories. So those things that everyone has experienced individually and together, and those shared beliefs and values. And again, you're talking about the idea of those things that we all sort of hold inalienable in ourselves that we have. And so when you're thinking about that, you're really trying to help articulate those shared histories and stories and those shared beliefs and values in a way that you're intentional with what your culture develops and what your culture attracts. And so how are you intentional with your company culture? And so I think you have to first start by defining it. So you have to define, what are my company's values? What is it we value? And then we have to define what our company's purpose or our cause and our passion is. The second thing you've got to do when you're working on it is you've got to think about how you're going to live it. So how are you speaking to and through those values and that purpose, cause, passion? And then how do you make and end relationships based on it? And so today we're going to talk through how we define it and how we live it when it comes to company values and purpose, cause, and passion. Now, people will say that there's 1,000 other parts of a company culture, and I absolutely agree. There's thousands of things, but I think if you don't start with these two basic principles, the rest of things like BHAGs and your one-year plans and your cultural bookends for your customer experiences, none of those things really matter if you don't have the base principles. And so we're going to talk about those base principles. And again, I'm going to sort of go into the danger when it comes to values and things about relationships. And we're really going to talk about that idea of, again, making relationships. How do we attract people and repel people that don't share those things? But we're also going to spend a little bit of time talking about why you should end relationships when you have people that aren't meeting the same cultural expectations you have. So what are core values? So company values are those 3 to 5 ideals that everyone shares. They're discovered, not created. Again, it's an interesting thing. People think they create their values. They don't. They discover what's in them. And it starts with the leadership team. Again, if you don't know who your leadership team is in an organization, you really need to sit down and think about that. Who are those people both by positional leadership, and by indirect or peer leadership are helping define what your organization is. And it's got to flow through the entire organization, right? This isn't something that starts and ends with the leadership team or starts or ends with the field level team. It's something you have to actually take all the way through the organization. So it's those 3 to 7 things. And Patrick Lencioni talks about core values as something that people go out when they're defining them. They sometimes end up in what we refer to as the core values trap. And that trap, as he articulates it, is people will set aspirational values. We want to be, technically minded, and you're not a technically minded organization, or you want to be, accountable, or you want to be timely. When as a group, none of you are exhibiting that value naturally. So you get a trap where you start by having aspirational values. The other thing is that in a lot of organizations, people will pick permission to play values. They'll say good people. They'll say honest, high integrity. If it's really not something that you hold core to your organization and you're not willing to articulate the details of it, it could be a permission to play value. It's something that, quite frankly, everyone has good people. I've never seen a website where a company says, hey, we've got really bad people, but still work with us. So you've got to be careful not to get the second trap of choosing permission to play. And then the other is accidental, like picking up a core value that's accidental. It's something that a few people share, but you're not willing to invest the time in making it intentional. And so again, as Patrick Lencioni will talk about when he goes through some of his stuff at The Advantage, you want to be very careful to not have aspirational goals, to not have permission to play, and not have accidental. And I say 3 to 7, it's a very wide range and a very small number. Less is more when it comes to company values. You're wanting to make sure the values you define are those things that everyone will make and end relationships on. So the less, the better versus the more. So in an organization that can have 3 values, you want to have those 3, not those 4 or 5. It's got to be, you want to make the difficult decision to cut down versus add up. It's not about having it say everything you want or everything you like or everything you could be. You want it to have it be those very, very few things that you must be. And again, it's got to start with that leadership team, and it's got to be something you spend time discovering. And so a discovery exercise for values could look something to the extent of really sitting down and spending time with your leadership team and saying, hey, what are some people we consider in the company to be rock stars? Generally people not in the leadership team that you really think are great team members, and then say, what is it that makes them great? What is it that we really love about them? And everyone writing down those 5, 7, 3 words that they say, this is what I really love about this person, this rock star we have in the team. And if you can't just do people on your team, you can take people that you sort of think are great in your communities. But writing down those words of things that you really value in those people, and then putting all of those up on a board and having the team sort of remove the duplicates, combine those things that are similar, and then going through and really saying, now which of these are us, and really going through what we call a keep, kill, combine exercise. So what do we want to keep? What do we want to kill because we really aren't that? And what do we want to combine together? And if you do that exercise enough rounds, you boil it down to those very, very basic things that you are at your core as a group. So it wouldn't be fair for me to talk about core values, to talk about what our core values are. And so, and Infinity Network Solutions, our core values start with my business partner, my brother, Brian. This is a picture of us as kids, and it's sort of interesting. A lot of our pictures are sort of in this pose together. And so, we as a leadership team sat down together and spent a significant portion of time really talking about what is important to us, what is just something we wouldn't trade away. And so our first value is service first. We believe that we have to be of service to each other and to our employees, to our clients, and to our community above all else. We believe that we have to do it through a team, that no one stands an island on themselves. There is no one person that can do what we do together better. And so we have to have a great teamwork dynamic. Our company really recognizes the fact that to deliver great service for everybody we work with, we've got to be prepared. It's something that is integral to the success of what we do. We have to come prepared every day to be of service and be a team member. We also be prepared in what we're doing so we deliver great work. Integrity is something that Brian and I grew up with in our family. It's probably part of the entrepreneurial culture we grew up in and the farming values we have. But we really strongly believe in having high integrity in all the things that you do. That you've got to be above reproach. That's the only way that people give you faith and trust to help their teams. And then ultimately, we've got to be accountable. Accountability is different than responsibility. Accountability is being okay with making decisions that sometimes don't turn out perfect and being willing to own those things when they don't go perfect and being able to explain why we made the decisions that we made and understanding that sometimes we just have to be responsible and be accountable when the decision isn't perfect. And so that is our core values. Now, before I skip on to purpose, cause, and passion, I'll talk about something else we use. We actually use our values in our hiring process. We publish them on our website. They're there for people to see. But we actually have what we refer to as the speech. It's actually a written version of our values where we articulate the value definition, as I said to you, but also what we call the virtue. So what does that value look like in action? And our hiring process includes our HR manager going through each value with the new hire and making them understand that they're joining a team that holds these things sacred and that for them to be a team member both in the short term and the long term, they need to also. And we find that there are people that choose to join the team because that's important to them too, but we also find people who choose to not join our team because, quite frankly, those are things they don't want to live up to, and that's okay. Our organization is not for everybody, and everyone doesn't need to be able to or want to work at every organization. They've got to come to want to work for the right organization. We talk to our vendors with it. We speak to our values with our vendors, and to a degree, because we use it in everything we talk about, it's with our clients also. And you've got to be willing to understand that those things are important to the individuals and to the organization. So that's another way we use our core values on a daily basis, how we speak to it and through it in everything we do. We actually, on a quarterly basis, pick a value to focus on. In our quarterly employee meetings, one of the things I spend a few minutes on is helping us understand what value we need to work on this quarter and why it's important. And then we try to spend more time on it than the others, though we talk about all of them almost every day, in articulating decision-making through that value that we're focused on. So that brings us to the idea of like, okay, great, we've got these core values. We know what we value. We know how we're going to attract and repel people on it, but then what? Well, the then what is that purpose, that cause, that passion. You've got to have something that says, why do you exist? It's the Simon Sinek why. It's not what you do. It's not how you do it. It's why you do it. And so it's got to be that case where it's what gets everyone excited. It's what gets you out of bed in the morning. It's the rallying cry. It's the thing that everyone is focused on. It helps you, quite frankly, we say keeps you focused. There are 1,000 shiny objects in the world, and as someone who lives in the world of vision more than I do in execution, it helps someone like me stay grounded when I think of that next shiny object, that next squirrel on the next tree that I want to pursue. And is that within our purpose, our cause, our passion? Many times companies find that they have entire divisions when they define their purpose, cause, and passion correctly that don't align. And they have to make a decision what they do with that. Does it get separated out to having its own purpose, cause, and passion? Or is it something they may not choose to do over the long haul? Again, this starts with leadership. Leaders have to define that. They have to point to where the future looks like for the organization. People have to know that leadership is living this every single day. And one last part when we talk about purpose, cause, and passion is got to go beyond money. It's not about making more money. I think doing things right create revenue for organizations, and doing things right internally create profit for organizations, but you can't focus on that when you're actually defining why you exist. I put this picture here of the crazy BHAG because sometimes people will confuse purpose, cause, and passion with your big, hairy, audacious goal, your BHAG. It isn't what you're trying to be in the future. It's what you are today. It's why you exist. A BHAG is more of a goal, right? It is more of a thing that you can define by people and profit and size. The purpose is what gets us out of bed every day. And so again, what we find is that organizations that do this well, when we've done it, we spend a lot of time talking about those key words of what is it that we wanted to be, what is it that we wanted to focus on, why did we get together, why do we come here? And so we spend a lot of time talking through the singular words. Again, this is a word exercise kind of play where your team is defining those words of like, what does it mean? And sometimes they'll come out in sentences and you have to parse the key words out of the sentences. And eventually you get down to those 3 or 4 words that you kind of say, that's what we are. Now, how do we wrap the rest of the language around those things in a way that helps us internally know why we get up, but also those externally? Again, I think through your partners and your clients, it helps everyone know why you exist. And I love Simon Sinek's statement. He jokingly said that Martin Luther King didn't say, I have a plan. He said, I have a dream. And so I think that when you think about this, this is the motivator, not the definer. And so, again, with that statement, I always say, well, what do we have to share? We have to make sure we share ours. We have to be really honest with this. And so our passion is moving your business forward with technology. And that statement was our whole existence. Why we exist is because we believe we serve the businesses of our clients, your businesses, and we do it with technology. We don't do it through technology or for technology. It is about our clients' businesses moving forward, and it's how technology helps them get there. And so that's our passion, what gets us up. Again, purpose, cause, passion. You can pick any one of those things. I love the fact that ours is so different than Nike's. Nike's at one point, they had theirs articulated as to crush Adidas. And so how easy it is to get up every morning and go, everything we do needs to be about crushing Adidas. Nike had a very clear why they existed. Now, one other thing that you might find is that, especially if you get into sort of putting the what in it a lot, and we did, is that conversation of like, well, we keep coming to what we do because it's really hard to separate why and what. I would tell you that you can define your niche. Okay, so why do we exist? And inside the why, what is it we do? And so our niche, the area that we excel at, our passion, is holistic IT management. We really look to focus in that how we help our clients move their business forward with technology. It's our niche. The thing that we're doing in there is that holistic IT management. So if you're going through and helping your organization define your purpose, cause, and passion, and you're finding yourself having a hard time separating the why from the what, try defining the what separate. Okay, fine, we work in holistic IT management or outsourced IT. Inside of that, why do we exist? Why us versus someone else? And so that hopefully will help you figure out how to separate that passion, that purpose, that cause. And again, some passions, purposes, cause can be very competitive. Some can be very supporting. Some can be very ethereal and very internally focused. Some can be very externally focused. And all of those are correct ways to get there. The important thing is that you spend the time to really hash this out. And then once you sort of built the first iteration of it, I always say you should test it. You should take it out for a test drive. You should talk about how you make decisions. So in your decision-making processes, how does our passion, our purpose, our cause really go to helping us make the right decision? Run up the flagpole at some of your partners, the people that you work with every day, clients and partners in the community, and ask, like, does this why we exist resonate with you as something that you see in us? And sometimes you may find that you found something that you want to be that you're not. You may find that it's some things that you are, but maybe you've missed the mark on what some of the external people, again, if external facing of this is important, might also think of you. And if you capture some additional words from those people you talk to and take them back to the team and say, hey, I heard these from our clients, I heard this from our partner community, do any of those things need to make their way into our passion, our purpose, our cause? So again, defining why we exist. And again, when you're talking about now, how do we live it? It has to be part of how you make decisions. It is the filter of, should we go do something? And so, as an organization, if we chose to get in the car wash business, it wouldn't fit in our passion. So why would we actually try to drive that tank through our Honda Accord factory? It would only wreck it. And so we want to make sure we don't do those things. And then you want to actually spend time talking to your team about what this means so that they can actually get on board with it, so they can understand what role they play and why you exist, and so that they can begin to internalize that to the things that they're deciding to do. Because ultimately, we actually talk about the fact that our team, when they're trying to solve a problem, we'll tell them, if we weren't here, what would you do? Because ultimately, we're not always here to help them make decisions. And is that in keeping with our passion, our values, our goals? And if it is, why haven't they gone ahead and used that for making the decision? In many cases, people are afraid of being accountable for the outcome, or they may be not certain that that is within their area, their sphere of decision making, and that's the opportunity to teach people to make better decisions, which is what I refer to as expanding Judd's box. You make the area in which they can make autonomous decisions slightly bigger by helping them understand how the decision links to your purpose, your cause, your passion, your values, your goals. And that's how you scale team, when everyone can make autonomous decisions within their area of responsibility and accountability without having to ask permission. That amplifies leadership, that amplifies decision making, and so that's where you want to head next with that. So we talked about speaking to it. I see a couple places where you can do that. So there's marketing. I think your marketing team needs to be ready to embrace your values, your purpose, your cause, your passion, and incorporating that into how they market you, how they speak to the external world for you. I think you have to talk about it publicly. Again, this today is sort of one of our responsibilities to publicly speak about these things. We do it in everything we do when we're talking to the public, the outside world, to our partners and our clients, but also when we just talk. When I talk about it, I try to make sure this is part of what we speak to. And then internally, you've got to use it in the internal mechanisms where you're talking to people. And it can be both large groups and small groups. And so if you're not comfortable, talking about it, speaking to it, in large and small groups, you really need to think whether or not you have the right values, the right purpose, and you've got to be able, as a leader, to be able to do it as just part of the natural way you handle things. And so you want to spend that time speaking to it in all three of those areas. So I said I'd go to the danger, I'd go to the uncomfortable area. This is something that a lot of people really find to be sort of that elephant in the room. Great, we've defined these values, we've defined this purpose, this cause, this passion, but we have some people that may not be on the same board with us. And so you have to be willing to put this in your hiring process. You have to be willing to put this in your review process, how you're holding each other accountable to what you're doing every day. And you ultimately sometimes have to make firing decisions for the greater good of the team. I always talk about our leadership team when we challenge them and say, are you prepared to be the leadership team the company needs and your employees deserve? And that sometimes means making the hard decision that that one person isn't quite a fit compared to everyone else, that you can free a seat up on your bus to then let someone else who's a better fit to join you. And again, this doesn't mean that the person's bad. This can just mean sometimes what you value, what you share, what you're focused on isn't aligned with them. And that can happen from the beginning when you hire someone if you don't use this as part of your hiring process. It can also be that just over time, things change, people change focuses. And you really do need to extend that out to your vendors, those people that you work with on a daily basis. Like, do they really focus on the same things you do? And if they don't, how can you find other people that do? Company partnerships. We really try to focus, even in our charitable givings, our charitable focuses, are the organizations we're choosing to spend our time with people that are actually doing the same things that we do in the same ways that we do them. And it doesn't mean like pulling this out and actually saying, well, hey, this is what I do. Do you buy into it? It's observation. It's cultural observation. It's if you value timeliness, and people don't show up to interviews on time, if you show up to a community event and that community partner is not doing something on time, if your vendor isn't showing up and delivering things on time, you've got to make a decision. That's a value of ours. Are we willing to continue to be partners with someone who is very directly telling us they don't value the same thing? And again, it's not a public firing. It's not in some of those cases where you're just going to tell somebody, I'm not working with you anymore. Sometimes it's more of a, we just made a decision to go in a different direction. And so you've got to be willing to have that very intentional, uncomfortable conversation, because as leaders in an organization, you're required, you're obligated to make those decisions. If you are going to be the leadership team that your company needs and your employees deserve, and that's something that my friend Jim Coyle has said to me a lot, and it's something that I value that statement, because it sort of makes you sort of a little more clear about decisions you have to make even when they're tough. So that brings me towards the end of the presentation here. I know it's pretty short, pretty succinct. I hope it was of value. Again, that focus around core values, of defining them, getting them out of your heads and onto paper, and then using those to define what is it that you're saying when you define it, and then also using it in your hiring, in your partnerships, and in your ending of things with people. And the same thing for your purpose and your cause and your passion, spending that time to really saying, what is it that gets us all out of bed together? And then once you've got it, how are we going to use it in our external and internal communications, our marketing, in large groups and in small groups? So a number of years ago, I spent some time with a CEO coach of mine named David Russell, and we tried to put together what we felt was a very clear set of exercises and efforts you can make in defining that company culture, because the challenge of it is being intentional with it. And so if you're interested in a copy of this book, and this is again where I'm speaking from when I talk about these things, you're welcome to put your name and your email address in the Q&A panel. I'll have somebody from the team reach out to you to get an address. I promise we won't spam you to death with it. What we want to do is just find out where to mail a copy of the book to you. Anybody here today who's interested in having that, I'd be glad to share it with them. I'll tell you, there are many great books written on this. I think that some of them are is 20, 30, 40 years old. They go back to Gerber, they go through Lencioni, and through people like The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Those are all things that ultimately we're just taking and refining those same basic skills. But again, I'd be happy to share a copy of that with you for the team. Last thing is that I have the Q&A panel open. I'd love to answer any question anybody might have about this subject, anything I might be able to help you better understand. Maybe I went too fast, maybe I wasn't clear about something. So if you're interested and you have the Q&A panel open, feel free to type a question in. If you don't mind, tell me who you are. If you also don't mind sharing your email address, please do, but at least you can type that question in and let me know what you're thinking, what your concerns are. I'd be glad to actually answer some of those questions for you here at the end of the conversation. So I see a question on there. It's asking about our employee of the quarter, and so how we're using that in our employee of the quarter process. So, again, what I said was one of the things we do with our values in the quarterly basis, we pick one. And by picking one, I just generally say, where do I think we haven't focused a lot lately? Where's the one we sort of have hit the end of the cycle? And what I'll do is I sit down and I help them see again the value, the statement, and then I actually help them see the virtue, what we refer to as the virtue, the value in action. And so we talk about what it means to enact that value, to make good decisions from it. And so we'll spend a few minutes on that. It's one slide in the deck we use. Now, what we do is on an annual basis, we do have an employee and all hands meeting once a year. And in that, we will actually walk through all aspects of this with our team. And so we will walk them through the full set of values, and we ask the question, are these the things that we still share and mean and take dear to ourselves on an annual basis? The same thing for our purpose, our cause, our passion. We remind people, this is what gets us out of bed in the morning. This is why we exist. This is why we do what we do. And so we'll spend that time during the employee of the quarter very succinctly around one value, but annually we sort of walk through all of those things. Let's see some other questions here. I appreciate everybody who's actually asking for copies of the book. Thanks for doing that. It makes me a little bit harder to read the questions, but I'm going to go through here. So someone asked, is this purpose, cause, passion also your mission? So yes, I apologize. I should have said that earlier. I could have said your mission statement. I try not to say mission statement, because mission statement people will get very what and how oriented. But yes, you could call the purpose, your cause, your passion, your mission statement also. I think you could stretch it to that, but you have to be careful, again, when you're talking about mission statements, you don't end up too much what and how. It's again, great video to watch, a TED Talk Simon Sinek did, Start with the Why. He has a book on it. He has a number of books actually on this subject now, but the conversation really started with why do you do what you do, not what. They always say Apple makes things beautiful. They just happen to make technology. And so the idea of how do you start with why you exist? We exist to make things beautiful. We do it with technology. So again, you want to be careful not to fall in the trap of being too what and how oriented versus more why oriented. Why is a harder thing to get to. If you spend the time to really boil down why, it's a lot easier for people to buy in and just sort of join the cause, to join your reason for existing. And so sometimes I'll tell people to use the Toyota theory. So Toyota says ask the question why 5 times when you're presented any problem or challenge. And so in defining your why, ask that question, why? Just simply say, when someone says, this is why we exist, why? And the more you can define it and distill it down to the most basic 3 to 7 words, and again, I always say the 3 to 7 because the less is more. You need to be able to be falling off a cliff and recite it on the way down to people. You should be in an elevator and go 1 floor. This isn't your elevator pitch that you should go 3 to 5 floors to people. This is in 1 floor, I should tell somebody why I do what I do. So let's see if we see any more questions here. Again, I appreciate everybody joining us and going through this with us today. And again, our goal is not to eat up a ton of time. Our goal is to try to get value to you quickly where you are. Again, this will be posted online. I'll also say if you've joined us and you didn't want a copy of the book, you didn't want to ask a question, but you'd like a chance to win a Starbucks gift card, I know Cal will be putting that out there for everybody who puts in their name and email address. So third reason why you want to put up your name and email address, again, first is get a copy of the book. We'll follow up with you there. If you had a question, please feel free to do that. Last one is if you want a Starbucks gift card because you're like me, you drink a lot of caffeine to get jacked up when you do stuff, we'll be glad to also provide that to anybody who puts their name and email address in the Q&A panel. So we're going to leave that up for a couple of minutes. So as we bring this to close, in case I see other questions, I'll bring this up. I'll challenge you to say, have you spent time on your business with your leadership team, really defining those things that are important to you, those things that make up your culture? Because if you haven't, you have one, and it's not what you want intentionally in a lot of cases. And I promise you, you're not making the best decisions around your teams and your partnerships if you don't have it defined. And so please spend that time together to really define that. I think by making all organizations better, we all get better together. I'll also go ahead and close out by saying, if you found this one valuable or not, there are a number of others in our library here on the YouTube channel we have set up. So please, browse around the channel. If you're reading this, you're watching this recorded. If you're watching this live, please be sure to check out our website for the future events. Again, I'm not delivering all the content this year. We actually have a number of our team members, Doug Smith and Mick Williams, are doing great jobs around security and technology and business planning when it comes to those things. I'm trying to help deliver the things that are more culturally oriented or more business oriented for the team. If you have ideas of things that you think that we have that we could share that we haven't in the past, I'll say feel free to email us, reach out to us via our website, Facebook, Twitter, however you run into us. Please let us know where we can be of value to you, where can we be of service to you. And again, as I say, our first value, our number one thing we get up every day and want to be of service. And I hope this was of service to you today, and I want to be of service to you, and our organization wants to be of service to you in everything we do. And so with that, I will close out again with a thank you for being here. And I hope this was of value, and I hope to see you both virtually and in the real world at many events to come. Have a great day.